Hello, Patrick Molloy, Natural Psychology. Today I wanted to talk about eating disorders again, and specifically the question, how do you get over an eating disorder? Now, there isn't a single answer to this because, of course, a lot depends on what kind of eating disorder we're talking about. The good news is that people do get over eating disorders, often without treatment, depending on the severity and the particular pattern of behaviour that they happen to be exhibiting. People sometimes just kind of grow out of it and they just stop engaging in the eating disordered behaviour. But the general, the mainstream recommendation for people with eating disorders would be to have some CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy. That's often a component of a treatment plan, and also perhaps some counselling, and sometimes some more psychodynamic therapy. Those are typically the sorts of things that might be recommended. And at times it's appropriate and at times it's recommended that the sufferer has some inpatient treatment. That's particularly the case in restrictive eating disorders such as anorexia. So those are the sort of components of treatment in the mainstream, in the medical world really, for eating disorders. And a particular combination of those elements are helpful for many people. However, my own approach to treating eating disorders is somewhat different. Of course, I'm likely to see the people for whom those other approaches haven't worked, the people who have successfully been treated using the mainstream approach aren't going to find their way to me, and good luck to them. I mean, I'm really pleased if people get better, however they get better. That's fine by me. But the people who find their way to me often haven't found the solution they were looking for in the mainstream. So some of the problems that I've noticed for those people who are unsuccessful with mainstream treatment is CBT in the last 20 years or so has become very widely accepted. It is can be a useful therapy because it's very systematic, and there's a lot of measurements and quantifying of different sorts of thoughts and that kind of thing. But in my view, for many of the people I see, it doesn't really get to the crux of the matter, because eating disorders aren't logical, thought out processes in my view. They're very much driven by emotion and driven by the deeper aspects of the mind. People might refer to as the subconscious. And so you can list out your thoughts and you can decide to change a thought from a negative one to a positive one, but that doesn't necessarily have that much impact on how you feel. Plus it can be very clunky for somebody to do that. Most people don't do that. Most people don't list their thoughts. Most people don't pay attention to every thought they have and try and switch things around, and it can create quite a lot of stress trying to do that. So that's what many people tell me. Again, I'm not being unnecessarily critical because I have used such approaches in the past, and with some success, to be fair. So the counselling can be helpful to people. I mean, it's good to have somebody to talk to. it's good to have somebody who is sympathetic and supportive when somebody's going through the process of recovery or trying to regain control. However, again, whilst it can be a good thing to some degree, it again doesn't really often, based on what clients have told me, it often doesn't get to the nitty gritty, the underlying emotional patterns that are in place and driving the eating disorder behaviour. Although it might be nice to have somebody that you can talk to who will support you and be sympathetic. Psychodynamic therapy, which is basically talking about one's life and the past. Again, from many clients tell me that, you know, we could just talk about stuff forever and nothing seems to change. Because when we're discussing our life and talking about our experiences in our life, we're going to talk about what we kind of know and what we've already thought about mostly. And so it can be a process of rehashing old stuff and old conclusions and assumptions, which can be endless and long. So, and the psychodynamic model of therapy is a long-term therapy. It's we're talking about years very often. So that often isn't that helpful to some of the people that I see. As I said, I don't see the people for whom such things have been already successful. So my approach is rather different. It's a natural approach to therapy. So we work with, or I work with the client, and it's very client driven. And it's actually very difficult to explain in a way, but you have to really experience it. But it's designed to pretty quickly get to the deep drivers of the eating disorder. And there's usually a number of, I tend to call them knots. There's a number of fixed ideas and perceptions that are kind of stuck in place that can be very hard for the sufferer to see. And so we work through those knots, and the knots reveal themselves and kind of unravel themselves. And then the client tends to get a series of insights about some things that is often very liberating for them. And during the course of the therapy, which is usually only a few sessions, we're not talking about months of therapy, we get to the point where the main kind of structure of the problem reveals itself and comes to light, and again will tend to unravel itself, and from that point on it can be quite life-changing for the client, and they then naturally feel differently. They find themselves naturally behaving differently without having to monitor thoughts, having to try and use loads of willpower and fighting with themselves and feeling conflicted. It's a very because it's a very natural process. It's a natural solution that emerges from it, and it as I say, it can be life-changing for the right person at the right time, really. Now, it may then be appropriate for a person to seek other advice, nutritional advice. That isn't my remit. You can't be a master of all things. So I stick to what I know and what I am able to do effectively, which is to carry out the therapeutic process that I've just described. So the good news is there are solutions to eating disorders. Typically, by the way, I often see clients with bulimia. It's probably most definitely the most frequent eating disorder that people come to me with, also binge eating disorder. I have also worked with clients with anorexia with good results. Although as far as anorexia is concerned, I like to have a medical referral and permission to work alongside the medical team, because obviously there are potential medical complications involved. So that's that. Hope you found that interesting. I could talk more about how my approach works, perhaps at some point. But that's basically what I wanted to talk about today. Patrick Molloy, Natural Psychology. If you found this interesting, by all means, feel free to like and share. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to chat about how I might be able to help. Bye for now.